So when it comes to Letitia James, we've got another update, and it's looking like there might be a superseding indictment because we're finding out a lot more information about what Letitia James had going on. We found out more information about the possible charges that could be updated on her indictment. And did she actually participate in this fraudulent activity when it comes to her properties, her 3 different properties we're going to be talking about. Now, when it comes to the indictment, she's only being indicted based on her activities with this one specific property. And we're actually going to hear a video later from Nate, the lawyer, where he explains more into the details of that property. But I wanted to replay this video from Letitia responding to the indictment coming out. I want y'all to hear what she has to say. Amy posted this over on her X account. If y'all don't follow Amy on X, make sure you do that to stay up to date on the latest news at IAMYLEIGH over on X. Check this out.
Continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding.
Well,
all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General.
Well,
these charges are baseless.
Did you?
And the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties.
Is it?
His decision to fire a United States attorney who refused to bring charges against me and replace them with someone who is blindly loyal not to the law, but to the president is antithetical to the bedrock principles of our country.
So dramatic.
This is the time for leaders on both sides of the aisle to speak out against this blatant perversion of our system of justice. I stand strongly behind my office's litigation against the Trump Organization. We conducted a 2-year investigation based on the facts and evidence, not politics. Judges have upheld the trial court's finding that Donald Trump, his company, and his 2 sons are liable for fraud. I'm a proud woman of faith, and I know that faith and fear cannot share the same space. And so today, I'm not fearful. I'm fearless. And as my faith teaches me, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. We will fight these baseless charges aggressively, and my office will continue to fiercely protect New Yorkers and their rights.
I mean, what you gotta fight, though? Here's my thing. Letitia, what do you have to fight? If it's a lie, it's a lie. Just can you say that? Say the president's lying. That's what I would say if fraud charges came out against me today from President Donald Trump. I'd be like, no, President Trump, we ain't doing that. Hey, where's the Associated Press? Y'all come over here. I got something to say. Yeah, he's lying. Letitia James has not said that. She said, we're going to fight this. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Man, get out of here. Is it true or is it not? Well, we're about to find out. All right. So we've got this update here about Letitia James, and we're going to hear more information. And actually, in the next video, we're going to be hearing from a forensic analyst who's going to talk about this mess Letitia's in. But check this out when it comes to what the Storm Has Rise has to say. The U.S. Federal Housing Director believes that Letitia James also committed insurance fraud and suggests that superseding indictments could be coming for her. I believe and do not know for sure that that's insurance fraud. You have a downstream crimes when you have mortgage fraud, you have insurance fraud, you have tax fraud. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see a superseding indictment. But of course, that'll be up to the Department of Justice. This could be one of the best F around and find outs I've ever seen if they throw the book at her. Well, I mean, she shouldn't have to fight too much. If it's a lie, right? You would think so. Well, let's see what they have to say.
I'll raise one other thing with you, Laura, which was fascinating in this indictment that U.S. Attorney Halligan did. She lays out in there, and I didn't know this, but it's fascinating to me, that Letitia James, according to the indictment, said that she had a primary residence at this secondary home for purposes of insurance. I believe, and I don't know for sure, we'll have to see what happens, that that's insurance fraud. And a lot of people just think, Laura, well, it's mortgage fraud. you have downstream crimes when you have mortgage fraud. You have insurance fraud, you have tax fraud, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see a superseding indictment, but of course that would be all up to the DOJ.
Very, very.
Yes, because think about it. If she was collecting the rent off of these properties, then where's that money going? What was being said on their tax returns about the rent she was receiving? What was being said on their tax return about the property? So then you have the tax fraud, right? Then you have the insurance fraud. If you tell the insurance company, hey, I'm here like 3 times a year. This is my property. Yeah, I've got people that pay me rent every now and then, but this is my property. So yeah, go ahead and give me that lower premium rate on my insurance. Thanks, guys. And then you lied to the mortgage company. Again, this is something. And I think it's interesting. Letitia is acting like it's nothing and just saying, oh, well, we're going to fight. What do you have to fight? I've got this video here from Nate the Lawyer. I'm not going to play the whole thing because I want you guys to go and support Nate the Lawyer. And I'll leave a link in the description to this entire video. But Nate actually goes through and breaks down a lot of what he's been hearing when it comes to rumors surrounding this indictment against Letitia James. And there's 3 properties that he discusses in this video. There's one property that was recently purchased in the last 2 years. That's not a part of the indictment. There's another property that she previously purchased, and that's not a part of the indictment as well. He talks about that in the video. What we're going to focus on here is the section where Nate talks about the property in question in this indictment and how that's going to affect Letitia James from a legal aspect and what she's looking at facing, because it ain't looking great. All right, y'all check this out, and I'll leave the link in the video to this full video in the description for you.
Let's move to the third property concerning Letitia James, which is another property in Norfolk, Virginia, the subject of the current indictment. Now, this loan originated in the year 2020. Now, on the loan application, Letitia James claimed that this property was a secondary residence. She also signed a second home rider promising to occupy the unit and not rent it. That's what the indictment alleges. Here, on paragraph 6, under a signed second home rider, which required James as the sole borrower to occupy and use the property as her secondary residence and prohibited its use as a timeshare or other shared ownership arrangement or agreement that requires her either to rent the property or give any other person any control over the occupancy or use of the property. So by signing that second home rider, she couldn't rent the property. And more importantly, she said she was going to occupy the residence. Now, because Miss James said that she was going to use this property as a second residency, that allowed her to get more favorable loan rates. Now, paragraph 8 lays out the benefit that James got for listing the property as a secondary residence and not a rental property. And that benefit came out to about $18,000. The indictment also says that the universal property application for the homeowner's insurance indicated, quote, owner-occupied non-seasonal use, further misrepresenting the intended use of the property. Now, to make it even more clear that even though James had listed this property as a secondary residence that she was going to occupy, she actually filed a tax return claiming that she never occupied the property. In paragraph 10 of the indictment, it says here that she reported 0 personal days use. She also received $1,000 in rental income and claimed deductions for expenses related to the property. And she received this loan in March of 2021. Now, Tish James defenders are pointing to this email in which Tish James, in section 5, which is declarations, it says, quote, will you occupy the property as your primary residence? And she puts no. But this email is dated 2023. And this is in reference to the Sterling property we talked about earlier, where she took the loan out in 2023. This is not about the loan in the indictment, which is from.
So she didn't lie on the second one because there's nothing showing that she said on the property in question that she wasn't going to use it as her primary residence. She actually said she was going to.
2021. Here is a secondary email that the Tish James offenders are also going to be pointing to, where she says here, and this property will not be my primary residence. But again, this is about the 2023 property and not the loan in 2021. Now, you're going to see a lot of YouTubers and a lot of conservatives pointing to this document, claiming that, hey, look, she signed under penalty of perjury. But this document has nothing to do with the indictment. It does show that there were some issues in the future, but in terms of the indictment that is on the table now, this document is irrelevant to that. Okay, so now let's go over some strengths and weaknesses of the government's current indictment. First, there is a clear paper trail of contradictions. Secondary residence, home rider, tax returns, showing rental income, clarifying that she never used it for personal use. Also, this case is very easy to explain to a jury.
Simple.
She said she lived there, but she rented it instead. She didn't tell anybody, and she saved it.
Well, it's simple to explain to the jury if you don't hate Trump. Some people are just going to hate Trump and say, oh, this is Trump's Department of Justice. Throw it out.
Showing rental income, clarifying that she never used it for personal use. Also, this case is very easy to explain to a jury. She said she lived there, but she rented it instead. She didn't tell anybody, and she saved about $19,000. It's not that complex. Now, if the court allows in the evidence of the other properties and their issues, that may also strengthen the government's case, but it is very unlikely the issues with the Brooklyn house or the issues with the other Virginia house will be able to be brought in front of this court because there's a bar to propensity evidence, so the jury will probably never likely hear about those other issues. What are some good arguments that could work for Tish James? Well, intent. Intent is...
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. Y'all can go listen to the rest of this video from Nate the lawyer. Shout out to Nate for breaking this down so well. There's a lot of issues Letitia's going to be looking at moving forward, but hey, she says she's going to fight it. And if it's true what y'all say, then she should have no problem. If she didn't lie and she didn't defraud this mortgage company and defraud the tax and the IRS and defraud the insurance companies, she should be fine. Let me know what y'all think in the comments in the chat.